Good evening. Today is Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. I'm Heather Peffley, Clerk for the City of Manistee. The City Council's April 7th, 2020 regular meeting being conducted remotely, where all members of the City Council are in separate locations and not at the City Hall Council chambers, will be called to order by Mayor Roger Zielinski shortly. As always, this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast on Manistee TV cable channels 189 and 190 and available at manisteetv.org. There will be no video associated with this meeting, solely audio. The reason for this is projecting video through Zoom sometimes causes a delay, which makes communication in this scenario difficult and awkward. In just a moment, we will start individually unmuting the microphones of each member of the City Council, the City Manager, and the City Attorney. We are unmuting them individually to make sure there is no disruptive audio feedback coming from each of them. Doing so individually allows us to easily identify the source of any disruptive audio issues. Finance Director Ed Bradford is assisting me with this meeting, and you may hear his voice if we have an issue that requires his assistance. The microphones of all members of the City Council, the City Manager, the City Attorney, and the City Clerk will always be live unless there's an audio disruption. I will now begin to unmute and check each microphone that will be live during the meeting. Mayor Zielinski, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Councilmember Szymanski, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, but the volume has gone down significantly from where it was when we first were online.
Okay. Councilmember Sipsick, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Councilmember Beaton, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Good evening, George Saylor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Good evening, Thad Taylor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. As a reminder, council members, please clearly state your name before speaking or making a motion or a second. Call will be taken by the clerk as usual.
Heather,
Yes?
you still have Councilmember Cooper and Councilmember Pontiac to unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Councilmember Cooper, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Councilmember Martin Pontiac, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as a reminder, council members, please clearly state your name before speaking or making a motion or a second. Now that the activating of microphones is complete, Mayor Roger Zielinski will call to order and will share some additional information about how this meeting and likely city council meetings for the foreseeable future will be conducted. Mayor Zielinski, we are ready to proceed with the meeting.
Thank you. We'll call the meeting to order. Please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper.
Here.
Councilmember Beaton.
Here.
Mayor Zielinski.
Here.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Here.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Here.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney.
Here.
DPW Director.
Here.
Finance Director.
Here.
Public Safety Director.
Here.
City Engineer.
Here.
Roll call complete. Mayor Zelinski, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. The roll call is complete.
Thank you. Meeting comments. As an important step in preventing the spread of COVID-19 virus, our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, issued an executive order authorizing public boards in Michigan to conduct their meetings remotely. This is a critical step to help stop the spread. All aspects of how this meeting is being run is in compliance with the Open Meetings Act as modified by the executive order and has been reviewed by the city attorney. The city of Manistee is taking various steps to do our part during this pandemic, and this is one of them. We need to keep members of the public, our city council, city staff healthy. Therefore, no member of the public, city council, or city staff are present in the council chambers. We will now begin the meetings. Public hearings, we have none. Citizens' comments on agenda-related items. All individuals attending the virtual meeting wait in the virtual waiting room with their microphones muted. When it comes time for the public comments, each person waiting in the virtual waiting room will be called individually by the city clerk by the last 4 digits of their telephone number. Individuals will be asked if they have a comment or if they are passing. It is very important that those giving comments have good phone connection and no sound or noise whatsoever in the background. Example would be televisions or all forms of audio should be muted. Otherwise, there will be a disturbance in the audio. If the issue cannot be corrected by the caller, we will move on to the next person in line. Please be aware of all those calling that when they first call in, their full telephone number may be visible for a period of time on the recording. Although we will work quickly to alter what displays so that it is just the last 4 digits of your telephone number. We will now take public comment. The agenda topics for those that do not have an agenda are: the consent agenda is the approval of minutes, cash balance, revenue and expenses, notification regarding next work session, consideration of a proclamation, consideration of proclaiming April as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. Other agenda items include consideration of a resolution for temporary emergency measures, consideration of entering into an agreement with Consumers Energy Company to allow environmental testing and remediation activities, consideration of approving a pickup truck purchase, consideration of approving a proposal for Larson Landscaping to reset brick pavers along River Street, consideration of awarding a contract to construct dumpster corrals in the BDA district, consideration of accepting a grant agreement with the Manistee County Community Foundation, consideration of a 5-year refuge contract with Republic Services, consideration of applications to boards and commissions, introduction to the fiscal year 2020-21 budget. The clerk will now take over and accept public comments on the agenda items.
Number 3118. Do you have a public comment? Pass?
Oh, no, pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 1981.
Pass.
Number 2842.
Yes, I have a question about the corral dumpsters.
Please state your name and address.
Ray Liebert, 59 Greenbush.
Go ahead.
Yeah, first I'd like to know where they're going to be placed and when the input process from the adjacent property owners took place.
Could Mr. Taylor shed some light on that issue?
I would defer that to Jeff McCula. He's been involved with the DDA Design Committee on that.
Well, are you voting on it tonight?
This is Jeff McCullough, the DPW director. The dumpster corrals, there will be 2 corrals that are being proposed. Both of them are along Clay Street within city parking lots. One between Poplar and Greenbush Street, and the other between Greenbush and Division Street. The concept for the corrals was evolved through the council-appointed refuse ad hoc committee and working with Republic Services. That ad hoc committee contained representatives from within the DDA district, downtown business owners, city council, and others. And the locations were reviewed, proposed to the DDA Design Committee. The DDA Design Committee then recommended approval to the DDA board, which the DDA board voted in approval of the project and also appropriated funding towards it. What City Council is considering tonight is the award of the contracts to construct those 2 corrals.
So you didn't ask anybody that lived across the street from there, their input?
Not directly.
I mean, normally when the city does something in a neighborhood, they usually notify the adjacent property owners that something's happening, so they can put their input into it. None of my neighbors around here have heard anything about it.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll go on to the
This is,
next comment. I'll be going on to the next comment.
thank you.
Yep, public comment. They all got unmuted. Was that 1891? Public comment 1981, excuse me.
Pass.
Public comment 4551.
Pass.
Pass.
I believe that is everyone.
There was one more, Heather, 8616.
Thank you. Public comment 8616. Do you have a comment?
No, I'm sorry, no, I don't.
Okay, I think that is everyone. We're all set, Mayor Zelinski.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are on the consent agenda and considered by the city manager to be routine matters. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, any member of council may have an item from the consent agenda removed and taken up during the regular portion of the meeting. Consent agenda items include approval of minutes, cash balance, revenue and expenses, notification regarding next work session, April 14, 2020, consideration of proclaiming April as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. This time, council could take action to approve the consent agenda as presented. I need a motion. Please state your name.
Beaton, approved.
Cooper, second.
I have a motion and a second. Did you get that, Heather?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, consideration of a resolution for temporary emergency measures to provide for the health and safety of our citizens, our employees, while still providing necessary and expected services to the community. The city manager is asking for adoption of a resolution for temporary emergency measures. The resolution was drafted by the city attorney, and if adopted, the city council would allow for the delegation of certain basic administrative powers on a temporary basis during the restrictions imposed due to the COVID-19 virus. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Kowalski.
Kowalski made the motion. Is there a second?
Szymanski, second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just am curious, I don't have it in front of me, is there an end date to this, or is it just for the next 3 months?
I didn't hear the question.
All right, this is Beaton. I'm just curious, I don't have it in front of me. I believe this is just for the next 3 months, is that correct?
Mr. Taylor, is that correct?
Yes, it's going to expire July 1st, 2020.
Okay, I just wanted to get that info. Thank you.
Any other comments, concerns?
Real quick, Mayor, we're getting a little bit of feedback, and I'm not sure where it's coming from, and it's making it difficult to hear. So I'm going to check and just see if I can see where it's coming from. Mayor Zielinski, it may be where you're at, I'm not sure.
I don't know what I can do except to go outside. I
Okay,
have nothing on.
okay. Can everybody else hear that?
Yes, I can hear the feedback, yes.
I can
all.
see.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
I forgot where we were at. Oh, okay. I have a motion and a second. Please take the roll.
Councilmember Sipsick,
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac,
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zielinski,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of entering into agreement with the Consumer Energy Company to allow environmental testing and remedial activities. Do you think I should go outside
Or turn around maybe. Basic direction in your.
I am trying. I'm moving around. I don't seem to. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would suggest that you might want to hang up and call back in and see if it's some issue with the cell carrier that takes care of the problem.
Okay, I'll do that now. I'll call back in just a second.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm still hearing it a little bit, but I think we'll just have to move forward.
Okay. Consideration of entering into an agreement with Consumer Energy Company to allow environmental testing and remedial activities. Consumer Energy Company is requesting the city enter into an agreement that would allow Consumer Energy Company to conduct environmental testing, remediation activities in a section of the river channel that abuts the North River Side Park and to place generator and an air compressor on. This unconsolidated action to authorize the city mayor and city clerk to sign a license of environmental testing and remedial activities. Is there a motion?
Manistee, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Zabowski.
Go ahead.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
I have a question. This is Peyton. I just want to know what happens if they find something, how soon can it be remediated?
This is the city manager. I can't definitively answer that because it's certainly, if they have to do remediation efforts, it's going to depend on the location, depth, what they're remediating, the scope, and those things. So I can't give you just a blanket answer.
This is for Peyton again. I'm just somewhat concerned that there's no real end date to it.
Well, I think there's the license is, I have to look real quick. The expiration date of the license is December 31st, 2021.
Oh, okay. So if they find nothing, then we could go ahead and we can end this so that it's not, so that it's a closed contract.
Well, it certainly if they do their, look there and find things they have to remediate, whenever that's done, it's done. If they find nothing, then they won't be working in that area. The river's not going to be closed.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zielinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac. Councilmember Martin Pontiac. Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Give me 1 second. It looks like Erin got cut off. She's trying to dial back in. Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Is that a yes vote? Was that yes?
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of approving a pickup truck purchase. Recently, Public Works truck suffered an engine failure and has been taken out of service. The truck was planned for replacement later this year. A Michigan deal quote was received from Doral Ford for a 2020 4x4 F-250 in the amount of $30,026. At this time, council could take action to approve the purchase of a 2020 Ford F-250 from Doral Ford in the amount of $2,026. Do I have a motion?
Cooper, motion.
I'll second the motion, Grabowski.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of approving a proposal from Larson Landscaping to reset brick pavers along River Street. Department of Public Works have been working with the DDA to upgrade portions of the brick pavers on River Street. The DDA has budgeted $20,000 for the initial work. The project was publicly advertised with one bid being received. At this time, council could take action to approve the bid from Larson Landscaping to reset brick pavers along River Street from Greenbush to Poplar in the amount of $19,860. Do I have a motion?
Grabowski, I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second. Beaton.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac. Councilmember Martin Pontiac. Councilmember
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of awarding a contract to construct dumpster corrals in the DDA district. The ad hoc refuse committee recommended constructing of two dumpster corrals in the DDA district. These dumpsters would be utilized by property owners along River Street between Division and Maple Street. The DDA board approved the recommendation and will contribute up to $80,000 for the design and construction of the corrals. The project was publicly bid, with 3 bids being received as follows. Gerber Construction Company, $66,000. ADEC Construction, $67,000. Orshell Construction, $71,840. At this time, council could take action to award a contract to the low bidder, Gerber Construction Company, in the amount of $66,000 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the documents. Do I have a motion?
Beaton, motion.
Do I have a second?
Grabowski, second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick. Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes,
Motion approved.
thank you. Consideration of accepting a grant agreement with the Manistee County Community Foundation. The city received notification on July 1st, 2019 that it has successfully received $39,700 grant from the Community Foundation to assist in renovating the First Street tennis court. A contractor has been hired, and the city is prepared to order new equipment. At this time, council could take action to approve the acceptance of a grant agreement with the Manistee County Community Foundation and authorize the city manager to execute the documents. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion, Szymanski.
Is there a second?
I'll make that motion.
Who was the
Are you
second?
clear?
Doesn't matter.
Was it Beaton that second?
Somebody else also
Jermaine?
second.
Jermaine, okay, thank you.
Any discussion?
Does that include the backboard? This is Beaton. I'm just wondering, I thought there was going to be like a backboard so that a person could practice by themselves. And I thought that was going to be a gift from from somebody in the community. Is that going to include that, or I'm just curious?
Jeff, can you weigh in on that?
Yes, this is Jeff McCullough, the Public Works Director. The total project includes lighting, resurfacing the courts, windscreens on the fences, new net, benches, sidewalks, bleachers and a bleacher pad, and it includes a large backboard. We did receive a community gift of, I believe, $1,500 from a local physician. The total cost of that backboard, I believe, is over $5,000, but it's included in the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of a 5-year agreement, a 5-year refuge contract with Republic Services. The current 5-year contract with Republic Services will expire on June 30th, 2020. City staff has negotiated a new 5-year contract following directions from City Council. The contract includes implementation of a new program, such as citywide tote service and DDA dumpster corrals. The city attorney has reviewed and approved the agreement. At this time, council could take action to approve a 5-year refuge collection and removal agreement with Republic Services and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the documents. Is there a motion?
Szymanski, I'll make the motion.
Cooper, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is Szymanski, and I wanted to make sure there's still going to be the option for people to buy the bag. Is that not correct? If they don't want to have the
Yeah, there's going to be a bag option.
This is Director McCullough. The bags have been received already, and within the next couple months, we'll be getting those distributed out to local retailers and have them available at City Hall for those that opt out of the CART program.
Okay. And my understanding is that if you opt in for the refuse bags, that you would not be charged on your water bill for refuse. Is that correct as well?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Beaton. My question is, how much is the charge going to be for the tote?
This is McCullough. I believe the charge for services are included in the proposed budget that would go into effect July 1st. Is that correct, Ed?
Yes, this is Ed Bradford, the CFO. The rate for the tote will be $15.75.
Okay, and if we pay the $15.75, that other charge on our water bill goes away, right?
Well, currently your water bill has a charge for whatever level of service that you have. So if you
Correct.
currently have a tote, you'll still have a charge on your water bill, but it'll be for $15.75 instead of what the charge is today.
Okay, well, some people will be switching over to tote, so just want to make sure that other charge drops off. Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Consideration of applications to board and commissions. The city has taken action to advertise vacancies in the Downtown Development Authority, Downtown Development Authority Citizens Council, Harbor Commission, Parks Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. Mayoral and manager appointments require a motion, second, and council voted approval or support. Nominations for council appointments do not require a second. All nominations are made. After all nominations are made, council voted on nominees until one nominee receives a majority support. The following applications have been received. Mr. Taylor, Downtown Development Authority.
Yes, I would like to appoint Kenneth Urban to the term ending 6/30/22.
Do we have support for Mr. Taylor's
I
nomination?
support Mr. Szymanski.
Is there a second?
Grabowski, second.
I have support and a second. Is there any discussion on this nominee?
I just have a question for Mr. Taylor. This is Beaton. Who does this person replace? I'm curious on the board. What person is not going to be the Tom Urban has been nominated to replace?
This is a city manager. This is a replacement for Valerie Bergstrom, who resigned.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grabowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Sipsick.
Yes.
Councilmember Beaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yes.
Councilmember Szymanski.
Yes.
Mayor Zelinski.
Yes,
Motion approved.
thank you. Introduction of the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. Administration has prepared a proposed 2020-2021 fiscal year budget. The finance director will give a brief introduction of the city manager's budget recommendations to city council and the community. The public hearing to review these budget recommendations and receive public input on them has been scheduled for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Various work sessions have been established, and regular work sessions on Tuesday, April 14th, and an optional work session on Tuesday, April 28th. There's no action required. Mr. Taylor and Mr. Bradford.
This is city manager. What I want to make sure that the council understands is that obviously we're in very difficult and trying times. When staff started putting together this budget, it was in late December, early January, and things as we now know them were very, very different. So we've put together a budget based on what we know at this time. Now, we fully understand, and I want council to also understand that there's a lot of uncertainties out there. in terms of our revenue sources, whether it's for Act 51 monies for our streets to state revenue sharing to other types of revenues. We don't know with any level of definity what those revenue issues are going to be. We're going to hope to get further direction from the state and other sources to try to determine what that might be. And it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to have to adopt a budget that will change in the coming fiscal year. We're going to have to amend based on new information, and I hate to be this way, but we're going to have to react to things that are out of our control. So I just want to set the stage that this is staff's best effort at putting together a balanced budget, giving what we know at this time, with the caveat that we also know that there's going to be some challenges that we need some more clarity on, and we're going to have to amend the budget, and we're probably going to have to make some cuts and some adjustments, and that's going to be a given. So I just wanted to preface this budget presentation with that fact, and then I'm going to just turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Bradford.
Thank you, Thad. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I am gonna try to keep this short and to the point, given some of the audio issues that we're having, but everybody should have gotten an email letting you know that the budget was available yesterday, and then I also put it on the website first thing this morning, so it is out there for the general public, as well as the capital improvement plan. One thing you'll notice in the budget is we reformatted it a little bit so that it's in landscape rather than portrait mode. Kind of went back to how we had done it in the past. So that's one of the changes that you'll see. But I want to go over just some of the highlights for the budget. The total budget for all funds is a little over $15 million. It's a slight decrease from the prior year budget when you exclude the bond proceeds. And that's a normal level of fluctuation in our overall budget, depending on what grants we may receive and things like that. The general fund budget is about $6.5 million, about 42% of spending. It is balanced without the use of fund balance, again, with the caveat that the COVID-19 pandemic might upend that moving forward. The water utility has a budget of about $1.3 million. And the sewer utility has a budget of about $3.2 million. This is the first year that we have budgeted those two utilities separately in the budget. That's a result of our USDA rural development loans that require reporting to be done as separate utilities. With that said, our other bond covenants require that the water and sewer utility be run as a combined system. So we will have potentially transfers of some cash going back and forth if needed, because we have competing requirements there. This is the best way to comply with the USDA requirements that they be reported separately, though. The street budget has about $1.6 million, or about 10% of our total spending. We'll discuss that more in a minute. And all the other funds combined are about $2.5 million, or 17% of the funding. Just a few of the issues in the budget that I wanted to run through, and those can be found on the budget issue page, which is page 8 of the budget. Obviously, as Thad mentioned, we're kind of in some unprecedented times with the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutting down of large segments of our economy. So that's going to be a recurring theme that I'm going to address as we go through some of these budgets, some of the impacts that they might have. This year, the DDA budget has been included in the city's budget. There's a separate section for that, so you'll notice that, as well as the narrative that was put together for that. For our water and sewer utility, we do have continuing mandates for our wet weather corrective action program, for asset management and inventory, and for lead service line identification and replacement. So those are ongoing challenges. We'll see a lot of the construction proceeding here, right now and then later in the year, or even more so. For the marina, it's continuing to struggle financially. The high water, the shutdown of the economy is going to have an impact on that. We'll have to see where that comes out. If things get back to normal sooner rather than later, but that's going to be challenging for the marina. As you might have noticed, if you've been following the markets, they have had a precipitous plummet since the beginning of March. And our oil and gas fund is down roughly about 20 to 25%, depending on what day you look at the market. Hopefully that volatility will help to lessen over time, and the markets will start to rebound once there's a better idea of what's going to happen with the economy. But that potentially will impact our spendable amounts in future years. It does not impact it for this year. And we do have some smoothing techniques in place which should help to buffer that. We have modeled this sort of an event, and we come out fairly well unless it is a prolonged downturn. The refuse fund, with the contract that you approved earlier tonight, we're going to have several major changes. Those will be addressed, and it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for everybody as we kind of move through these changes. The takeaway there is that we're going to have a heightened level of communication with the public to make sure that these things are communicated as well as we possibly can. One other area that we want to talk about is the capital improvement bond. We're going to be planning on issuing one of those shortly after July, so that is definitely an issue in the topic. So let's focus on the three big issues. One is the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, it's all over the news. Everybody is feeling that, and not just the impacts on the city's budget, but there's a lot bigger impacts that you could have with that, including loss of life, lots of job losses, social disruptions, and we hope all of those, especially in our community, are at a minimum. But the reality is things like tourism and some small businesses are probably going to be very negatively impacted. From a city budget perspective, we're definitely expecting lower revenue sharing. As Thad mentioned, those were not built into our budget projections because we don't have any credible knowledge of that yet. It could be very possible that some of the federal stimulus money that's flowing to the states, the legislature allocates that to help kind of hold cities somewhat harmless. We don't know that. That's all speculation, and as it would be speculation to dramatically reduce revenue sharing in this budget. But just keep in mind that because that's based on sales tax and people aren't driving around buying stuff, that's going to be an issue moving forward. Same way with our Act 51 street revenue, that's based on gas taxes. People aren't driving, so there's going to be lower gas taxes. I mentioned the oil and gas fund being down. That will have impacts in the future. The Federal Reserve has dramatically slashed interest rates, and that's going to have a negative impact on our interest income. So those are all pressures that we'll be evaluating on the budget as we move forward. One of the big issues that we've been dealing with in the city is blight. There's a separate issue page on that, and it actually addresses the recommendations that the Blight Committee had made in that issue page. A couple of the highlights of that, one of their recommendations was to establish a part-time blight officer. This budget does not put that position in or budget for that, but rather it makes a recommendation to deploy our existing police resources in an approach that will divide the city into 8 sectors and assign one of our officers to each sector for enforcement. And this approach has several advantages, including a higher level of accountability, enforcement, and particularly safety, while not incurring costs that might be better deployed on other things. And as an example, the cost of that blight officer is roughly, a part-time one would be roughly the amount to take down one blighted structure. The budget does include $12,000 for blight demolition expenses. Public Safety Director and City Manager are going to lead an effort to draft blight amendments. And one of their other recommendations had to do with a rubbish collection or trash. All that is not being recommended in the budget, and there's an explanation of that as well. So that is addressed in here. And then the capital improvement bond that we talked about potentially issuing, we have a number of projects that need to be funded, and the most efficient way to fund all of them, because they're from disparate parts of the city. Some are general fund items, some are water utility items, some are sewer utility items, And also, we have some issues with timing on that. The best way to do that would be to issue a capital improvement bond. So there's a page in here that talks about the different projects. We are looking at probably a $5 million bond. And again, some of that will be paid for by the water utility because it funds water projects over 3 years, and some of it will be done by the sewer, and some of it will be done by the general fund. The biggest single item that's being proposed for this capital improvement bond is about $1.5 million of shoreline erosion work and riverwalk repairs, and also retaining wall that recently collapsed. It's on the west end of the river channel on the south side primarily. But there are a lot of other projects in here as well, and the budget discusses those. From an employment standpoint, the budget's proposing that we reduce 1 FTE in the budget, and that would be an unfilled position in the police department. That position's been unfilled for approximately 2 years. And we have been able to recall the scent officer to keep the police department at its regular numbers, but eliminate that position in order to offset some of the other financial pressures and balance the budget without really reducing our service level very much. If we look at the general fund a little bit closer, again, the budget is about $6.5 million. We had an increase in revenue of about $81,000. That's a little bit misleading. It was actually more than that because this year, this current fiscal year, the DDA bond was paid off, and we lost about $140,000 of revenue from the DDA, but that was offset by bond expenses because the city paid that debt service. So really, on a recurring year-over-year basis, we had an increase of about $220,000, a little bit over 2%. And our expenses increased by about $66,000, and so we had a balanced budget this year in that regard. Just some of the highlights of the general fund. We do have this budget has allowed for wage adjustments to employees based on collective bargaining agreements, based on the arbitrator's decision for the 2 police unions, and also provides a modest increase for the non-union employees. One of the areas that really increased our costs this year was our MERS contribution, and that was primarily related to the experience study that MERS had recently where they adjusted some of their actuarial assumptions, as well as we had 1 year of poor returns in there. I'm expecting that the MERS contributions are going to continue to increase, although they are scheduled to drop off after a period of time. And there are some charts in the budget that look at that, but that's one of the cost drivers in the general fund. Our health insurance is looking like it's going to go up around 10%. The last estimate I had from the carrier was about 9.5. Keep in mind those costs are split equally between the city and the employee. I normally budget 10%, so it came in just under that, so we're in good shape there for this year. As we move along to the component unit section, again, the Downtown Development Authority budget was included in here, and there is a narrative from the DDA. The idea for this was that this could get in front of council in the same time frame as the city budget, give it a little bit more transparency, and allow council to fully look at that budget. And that kind of came out of the services agreement and the ongoing conversations that we had with EDA as the TIF plan was being approved. Moving on to enterprise funds, again, we've broken out the water utility and the sewer utility so that they can be budgeted separately and look at it. The budget is assuming a 3.5% rate increase for both water and sewer, which is what the rate study of a few years ago has recommended, and we're not deviating from that yet. Once all of our debt is in place for the wet weather corrective action program, those costs are known and the debt is in place, if we issue that capital improvement bond, we'll be planning to go back and refresh the financial portion of that rate study just to make sure that we're still trending where we need to be. But as it stands right now, things are looking fairly good for that. Not a lot of changes or things in the water utility. There are a lot of projects that are coming up to replace water mains over the next 3 years, and those are done scheduled in conjunction with street work. We marry those up so that you're not tearing up streets and not replacing the utilities underneath them. One of the initiatives that the water and sewer utility is undertaking, and we're in the middle of implementation, is our Lucity asset management software. That's going to help us to catalog all of our assets in the water and the sewer to a very high degree of accuracy with lots of information, and make it all readily available to the people in the field as well as to management. Also, it allows us to do work orders and track the process of those. So that's in the process of being implemented. If we go over to the sewer utility, they have an extraordinary amount of construction coming up between the wet weather corrective action program, where they're redoing some of the streets on the north side with some of the storm sewers, and they're lining many miles of sanitary sewer to help stem inflow and infiltration. And then later they'll be starting construction of the above ground storage tanks at the wastewater treatment plant, constructing a new headworks, and rebuilding part of the interceptor. All of that wet weather corrective action program is just under $20 million worth of construction, which is a very large amount. We did get notified that we're probably going to be eligible for a grant on the second portion of that, although the Rural Development Washington office has not gotten back to us to formalize that yet, but we're expecting to hear something from them hopefully sooner rather than later. We talked a little bit about the municipal marina. Again, they're very dependent on what's going to be happening with the weather and the prices and this whole COVID-19 thing. So we're really going to have to keep a close look on that and try to clamp down on costs if the season doesn't shape up as we hope it does. Looking at our permanent fund, which is the oil and gas fund, because of the great market that we've had for the past 10 years up until the beginning of March, we measure this as of December 31st and take a 3-year look back to kind of figure out the base for calculating the spendable amount each year. And this year, that spendable amount is going to be $421,000 and change, and that's up from $401,000, so about an additional $20,000. And that gets allocated to the capital improvement fund. We are expecting I'm anticipating a pretty sizable loss this year in the portfolio, unless things turn around more quickly than people are anticipating. But again, hopefully that will be short-lived and will continue that trend as the economy starts to pick back up. The next section is the special revenue funds and the streets. And the street section is pretty extensive. It gives the conditions of all the streets as well as a history of where those streets have been. We have made market improvement since we've been practicing asset management principles. It's been about 10 years now that we've tracked that, but there's still a lot more work to do. The 4-year transportation improvement plan from the proposed budget fiscal year 21 and then the next 3 years after that, it includes approximately $8.4 million worth of street work. And this is just the portion that can be attributed to streets. It doesn't include any of the underlying utilities. Of that, about $5.1 million is local streets and about $3.3 million are major streets. And there's some charts and graphs that show that and break it out year over year. There's also a map in the budget that shows which streets are going to be done which year. One of the things that we did have to do this year in order to make the general fund work is we did have to eliminate the general fund contribution to the street funds that had been at $70,000. What we've done, though, if you look on page 115 of the budget, even though the general fund contribution was zeroed out, the total amount of outside resources that are flowing into the street funds and primarily into local streets is increased by about 20%. And that's because we're sending more from the capital improvement fund, or from the major street fund, to the local street fund on an annual basis. And again, the governor had planned on trying to get even more revenue to the local units to do streets. That's probably all going to change with the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're still hopeful that when things return to normal, that there'll be a plan to adequately fund streets from the state level. By eliminating the general fund transfer, we haven't reduced the number of projects that we're doing. We've just kind of shifted the resources around. If you continue on through the budget, there's discussion about both major and local streets. It shows the revenues from the state, which again have been going up, and it also has a discussion about, what the projects have been each year and also how the expenses in the streets are broken out. For example, in the major street fund, our maintenance and operations accounts for about 36% of the expenses. And as I mentioned, there's about a $220,000 transfer to local streets, which is the second biggest expense in the major street fund at about 24%. Moving on, we go to the refuse fund. The refuse fund is a little interesting this year because there's been so many changes with between the dumpster corrals and going to the mandatory tote with optional bag system, new contract with new pricing, kind of eliminating some of the recycling and going with the PCA trailer. There's been a lot of changes that we've had to account for. So hopefully we've got everything in here. The budget is showing a slight deficit, but there are a lot of moving pieces. That's probably very conservative, and there's ample fund balance to support that. Again, as we move forward with implementing these new things, there may be some things that pop up, but hopefully we've anticipated all of them. The next section of the budget is the motor pool. And the motor pool budget funds quite a number of purchases this year, approximately $431,000 worth of equipment across several different departments, including Public Works, Police, Sewer, Water, and Fire EMS. The biggest single portion of the purchases this year in the motor pool is to replace our aging marquee ambulance, known as Rescue 5. That's scheduled to be replaced at a cost of $265,000, and we plan on financing that. As we've talked in the past, the motor pool budget, we do actually a 10-year projection of that to try to make sure we can level out the purchases with the rental payments and maintain sustainability. And we're definitely making improvements. There's more work to do, but we adjust those on a year-over-year basis to make sure that everything can flow smoothly. Next section of the budget is the capital improvement fund. That's the one that is funded by the oil and gas spending rule allocation. In the capital improvement fund, there's several projects that are slated for this year. There is some debt service. We still have payments on the Ramsdale HVAC. We still are supporting the marina debt for the building replacement, and we still are supporting the debt that was incurred to reconstruct First Street. We've added this year a little bit of debt service support for the 2020 capital improvement bond. That will change over time as the City Hall bond falls off, then the general fund can pick up more of those payments. But the way we had to structure it to make it work is that in the first 4 years, the capital improvement fund pays a little bit more. But then for new projects, there's actually 4 or 5 of them listed here. We have at the Ramsdale Theater, their elevator is over 20 years old. And we've had a number of issues there where the hydraulic valve, the main valve on it, has failed, and we've had issues where the elevator people have been stuck in it, where it's descended to the bottom, and we've had to call in repairs and maintenance crews on overtime basis, and that gets very costly. It's a couple $1,000s every time we have to do that. They recommend that valve be replaced. It's no longer even made, so there's a line item for $16,000 to replace that. There's about $20,000 for some improvements at City Garage, which is a 50-year-old structure. That would be going towards replacing some flooring and updating the bathrooms. There's $20,000 for the grant match for the tennis court project, which we got a grant from the Community Foundation. So that's included in the budget. And then there is an ongoing $80,000 of local street support that we have in the budget as well. So the capital improvement fund supports a wide variety of expenses. In the current year's budget, when you look at current or new projects plus prior debt service, streets are about 35%, buildings 45%, marina 15%, and parks 5%. And that changes year over year depending on what those projects are. Moving on to our grant management fund. This year we have a number of grants that are going to be potentially accounted for in here. We have a FEMA Aid to Firefighter grant that's pretty sizable. That's a collaborative grant with the city and Manistee Township and Filer Township. We have a potential CDBG planning grant through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation for the Ramsdale Theater. And so those are 2 big ones that we'll potentially have this year, in addition to our normal little local revenue sharing board grants that we get primarily for public safety. Later on in the budget, we have the Schedule of fees that's been updated, and then you have some appendices. I just want to reiterate what Thad talked about at the start here. We really are in uncharted territory with the pandemic. You know, things are evolving not just day to day, but really hour to hour. And we don't know how long this new normal is going to last. We don't know how long the pandemic is going to last. But the best we can do is just be flexible and know that there are going to have to be some adjustments moving forward. The city manager and myself have directed the departments in the current fiscal year to really conserve money wherever they can and really not spend anything that's not absolutely needed, because we just don't know what the next year is going to look like. And so, you know, I'm hopeful that we can bring this year's budget in at a break even. I'm projecting a little bit of a deficit right now, but again, there's a lot of variables that aren't taken into consideration because of this whole pandemic. But we're really trying to pinch pennies because the future is going to be a little bit uncertain. I also have the capital improvement plan that we published, and that has been sent to council for their review. It tracks all the projects that are in year one, that are in the budget, and then a projection of what might happen in future years. I'm not going to go through that in detail tonight, but that's all the comments that I have, and I look forward to discussing it further at future work sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Do council members have any questions for Mr. Bradford tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to concerns and comments. Citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment on municipal services, activities, or areas of city involvement. Citizens in attendance via phone shall be recognized by the city clerk for comments limited to 5 minutes. Letters submitted to council will not be publicly read. Every person in the waiting in the virtual waiting room will be called by the last 4 digits of their telephone number. City clerk.
Phone number 3118. Do you have any comments?
No, pass, please.
Number 1981.
This is Kenneth Irvin. I'd like to thank council for appointing me to DDA, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Number 4551.
Yes, this is Dennis Otto, council, actually several of them. What is the plan with this pandemic as far as COVID-19 relating to rentals, people migrating up here from the south, or just through our community? Is there any plan to stymie some of that based on what we've read and seen with movement of people?
Mr. Taylor, I was going to give you an opportunity to give you an update on what we've been doing and what we look forward to in the future. Could you do that?
Well, in terms to the, in response to the specific question about the rentals and individuals passing through our town, obviously we have no authority to stop people from driving through the city. Second, we don't have a short-term rental ordinance, if that's what you're referring to. And so because we don't have a short-term rental ordinance, we have no power to stop people from doing vacation rentals or short-term rentals. I think there's enough talk out there about people that should be staying in their principal residence until this stay-at-home, stay-safe order is lifted, which also would include those people that are what you term snowbirds coming back. But we can't tell them they can't come.
I understand that, but up in Charlevoix, the city council on Saturday voted to stop licensing operation of short-term rentals for 60 days. Now, why can't we do that?
Well, as I explained,
they also stopped hotels and motels from booking anybody coming from out of town. Now, why can't the city of Manistee address that?
Okay, as I said before, we don't have an ordinance.
But they just
regulating-
passed, but, excuse me, sir, but they just passed one in Charlevoix Saturday. They didn't have one either. Why can't Manistee pass one?
If you give me a chance to answer the question, I'd be
Okay.
happy to.
Okay.
Number one, we do not have an ordinance that regulates short-term rentals. Apparently Charlevoix does.
They just passed it on Saturday again. Go ahead.
Now, we got to get something clear. Give me an opportunity to fully answer. I've not interrupted you.
I want to, but you're not hearing what I said. They didn't either, and they just passed one to handle this pandemic here. And my question is, why did he pass one?
I would like to interrupt. Mr. Taylor, would you take this person's, or would you get this person's information and contact him tomorrow, and
Sure
discuss it with him?
Heather, do you have the name?
I do, and I will get that information to you.
Do you have a contact information for him?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, let's move on to the next person, please.
Okay, I think we have one more. Public comment 8194.
Pass.
Okay, that's all I see for public comments. Would you like me to move on to officials and staff?
Yes, please.
City manager?
Yes, I just wanted to inform council that this week, the police department and fire department and DPW embarked on what we're calling sustainability scheduling. As an example, DPW is going to be split into 2 shifts. Each shift will work 6 days in a row and then have 8 days off. So as an example, one shift would work from yesterday through Saturday, have Sunday off, and the next week off. And then the second shift would come in Monday and do the same thing. What we want to do is minimize the exposure between our employees. We're doing the same thing with fire and DPW. Not all employees will be working their normal hours, but we're paying them for their normal hours because it's understood that they're on call and they need to be available during their normal. So we've done that. We've also embarked on tracking our costs related to any expenditures for this pandemic. Because the state declared a disaster and it was recognized by the federal government, we can reimburse through FEMA. So Angie Rabb, who's our Deputy Finance Director, Deputy Treasurer, is coordinating those efforts. We had a virtual meeting yesterday on that topic, and all of our department heads have been directed to just catalog and keep track of all those expenditures, get them to Angie, and then she will then be our authorized agent to interact with FEMA to try to get federal funding and reimbursement. And finally, I just want to say how proud I am of our employees, all of them. I mean, it's tough enough in this particular day and age with all the anxiety, but then to have to coming to work each and every day and performing their jobs and doing their normal spectacular job and providing the needed and expected services to the community. I'm really proud of them. So I think we all owe them a big thanks, as well as many others in our community. So those are my comments.
Okay. George Saylor, do you have any comments?
None, thank you.
Ed Bradford?
Nothing more, thank you.
DPW Director? Hold on, give me 1 second. Did we lose him? Oh no, he's still there. DPW Director?
Yeah, this is Director McCullough. A couple comments. Just a reminder to council and all the public that we are having our bulk yard waste pickup beginning next Monday. We're doing this especially because the snow hit so early last fall and we weren't able to pick up all the leaves. The community seems to be responding to that, and I'm hoping everybody gets their stuff out before Monday as we make one large pass. The other thing that I would like to comment on is our recycling center is receiving a lot of abuse recently with yard waste being put down at MCC, which is not a drop-off site for yard waste. And people are piling cardboard outside of the dumpsters, which is making it very difficult and expensive to handle. So I'd like to remind the public that if the dumpsters are full, please do not place materials outside of the dumpsters. We have added another dumpster today to try to address the influx of materials. And then also remind the public that PCA relocated the trailer that used to be there up behind the Bungalow Inn for people that are outside the city, or if the dumpsters at MCC are full. Thank you.
Public Safety Director?
Good evening. Just a quick comment that I'd like to thank everybody for their support as the police department goes through sometimes with their several of the men and women that are working. We appreciate the support. I appreciate all the support over at the fire department and their management of looking to see how they can try to do this a little better and minimize contact with each other and with the citizens. So we're looking for what the future holds. And again, I appreciate everybody's support.
City Engineer?
Yes, just a couple of real quick things. One is our company is fully operational and working, though we're all working from home or in the field. So if you have any questions or comments or any construction work going on, you know, definitely feel free to get a hold of us. And secondly, there is construction projects starting up. They're considered critical infrastructure, so they're authorized to proceed under the order. We have worked with the contractors, and they're well informed about practicing social distancing. And the same goes for our inspectors. So just so everybody's aware, there will be contractors out working starting soon. Thank you.
Mayor, would you like to address the council members?
Sure. Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, I just want to thank Officer Kozel for being our public safety director for the last 3 years. I think you've done a wonderful job. And I guess I'll pass on anything else I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Eden?
I would like to echo Councilmember Cooper's comments on Chief Kozel. I also want to really highlight the fact that I thought the police department really stepped up when they put on their Facebook page that they were telling officers that had the COVID-19. Transparency is so important during this particular time in our history. And I think they just did an admirable job by coming forward and putting that public notice out there. So thank you very much for that. And I appreciate all the hard work that everybody's doing to keep the city moving forward in all departments. Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Taylor and Heather. Particularly, you've done a tremendous job. Thanks.
Mr. Jim Gabowski?
I want to reiterate the comments that I appreciate everything everybody's done for this period of time that we're going through. You stay safe out there.
Ms. Pontiac?
Yeah, I just want to wish Chief Kozel good luck, and to thank the police department. They're doing a good job, and hope they get well soon, and everybody stay safe out there. And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Szymanski.
Yes, again, I'd like to also thank our first responders, but also all the other people who are working through this pandemic to make our lives a little bit more sustainable. The people working in the restaurants, the grocery stores, again, they're taking significant risks to be able to provide for us. So I'd like to thank them. And also, I'd like to just mention to parents, I see a lot of kids in our parks playing basketball with groups of 5 or 6. Again, I get it, that they're teenagers, but when they're coming home, just remember what they may be bringing with them may not be as desirable as we think. So I just ask to take a little bit more precautions when you're out exercising, that you still maintain the 6-foot distances. And I don't think you can do that playing a game of basketball. And then lastly, just a quick, I looked at that contract for the dumpsters, and it looked like it had a 2-bay dumpster on Water Street and a 3-bay on Clay Street. I didn't see anything on Greenbush.
Okay. My comment is, I don't have words to express my gratitude to our public safety workers, our ambulance people, our police department. They go in every day knowing that it could be a bad result. You don't have words to express that. But I'd also like to express my appreciation to all the people in the community. I see a lot of social distancing going on. I see a lot of people who are looking out after me. And in return, I will look out after them. I will do my part. Together, we will overcome this. Thank you very much, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Lubetsky.
I have a motion. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening and be safe.
Yeah.